Uh, Good morning, everybody. I appreciate you all coming. Ruth brought up the fact that yesterday we didn't have a signed contract. The contract that I presented is an exact copy. However, for the record, here is the Atlantic Broadband contract. Initial sign on every page. And we may take a look at it and we'll make copies for whoever we want. There's the man, you see, he would have brought his copy, but we have our own copy now. So that's important. I want to say that whoever came or is coming is very important. And I think these three meetings, which were called very quickly, had served a terrific purpose because the kinks are getting worked out. I had sent contracts to the committee members. I had it in Google. I didn't need a password. Now that'll be taken care of. I'll have our secretary do it, who's doing a terrific job. I also want to bring out that I think the review of the contract was important. It was brought to our attention that there is a conflicting two sections. One says they will provide us with specific premium channels. The other one says they don't have to give us anything. And I'm bringing up the third thing that Richard has brought to our attention. In addition to the regular premium, I think Richard said in the last 3 years, it came to about $15 extra for a gift that they get for Wi-Fi increasing.
The high-speed network recovery fee. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
That's $9.14 now, and so my next door neighbor received a letter. I copied it and sent it to Leo. They said they were going to raise it tomorrow, September 1st, another $6.64. Leo's assistant, Nicole Noel, Joya's Noel, called me back. I emailed Leo, Noel, Ira Levy, and Melissa Krupkin yesterday that there is a broadband meeting in 2 weeks.
I'm very happy to do that because I prepared an email, which I'm sending to Shell Connick to find out with these two conflicting paragraphs, which would prevail. She's an attorney and has reviewed the whole contract and basically said sign it. So it's really a conundrum. However, I brought this up to David yesterday, and he says he gets all the channels that they said they were going to take away. I didn't check them, but I think there's one or two that people were upset about. I didn't go back in to look at them. However, I don't know if even if they didn't, I know that was brought up. So I feel we could be better prepared. Everybody now has a copy of a contract. And when the broadband committee comes up, it'll be an interesting meeting because not only what Richard brought to our attention, but also what people have been calling about and complaining. There's always be complaints. I told you yesterday, for over an hour on the phone with a tech, it just didn't work. And I think Stuart had the same experience. It worked in one room, it didn't work in another room. So nothing is perfect. And the other question is, we went through a tremendous amount of effort to make a commercial space for Atlantic Broadband. Now, that was supposed to be used for storage, which they claim they have now. And it's only at $1 a foot, which is a gift. And the other is, and this is from memory, I haven't seen it in the contract, that they had promised that they would have a technician in the car on premises all the time. I don't see it in writing, but, and if it's not in writing, it's alien, not Tupperware, but alien. So we're talking about, and that's why I brought it up, the biggest item on Yugo's agenda, it's well over up to $3.5 million. So it's not chicken feed. And also I have to compliment Richard, bringing it up that this contract can be renegotiated according to the contract in 6 years, which is not that far away if we all live and be healthy. And that's a consideration, things change. If there's anything else on that, please speak up.
Ed, can you send me a copy of that? Can you send me a copy of the contract?
Of the what?
Contract.
Can you send me a
sorry?
copy?
Sure. Am I crazy? Isn't that Dominic?
No, that's Amerigo.
Oh, there he is. God,
Just
you know,
joined.
he's in God's country up in the mountains. It's very hard to
Yeah.
recognize a Canadian on the screen.
Edward, can you send me a copy of the contract by email?
I'm gonna bring it up to you personally.
Oh, I know that, but I may not be here.
Okay, I'll send you a copy. No problem. Richard,
We don't have to wait for 6 years if we don't want to. If, let's see. The initial term shall automatically renew for consecutive terms of 1 year each unless either party notifies the other in writing of its intention not to renew the agreement no less than 90 days prior to the end.
oh, that's good.
This was signed on June 5th, 2017. June, April, May, June. Well, anyhow, 9 days, I can't count backwards so fast,
Well,
but that's a,
it's a good point, and what was brought up before, if we decided to switch, we would owe them a chunk of money. However, we're provided for that. We've taken what they gave us and only wrote off the years that expired. So the liability is on the balance sheet and the funds are there to pay it. Also, I would suspect if we got another vendor, they would make a payment too.
right.
So I think it's a good point, and I'll send you a copy and everybody could read it and have their questions before the meeting. Is there anything else?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, before you indicate that you're willing to review the contract, you have to have a fallback position. Do you have another contractor that'll step in?
That's what,
No.
Yeah.
Well, the person who got paid for reviewing the contract, and it wasn't nickels and dimes, is Shell Connick. And if you have any questions, I've already drafted a email to go to her with the question that I raised. Okay, so
all right.
it's been reviewed. I don't know off the top of my head, but it was several $1,000s to review it.
Question, Ed,
What?
Question.
question.
Go.
Go.
Before this is reviewed, doesn't it have to go to the broadband committee?
The broadband committee had all the time in the world to review it. I am only looking at the expense. What we're paying for and what we're going to get. The broadband committee meets on a regular basis, if I'm not mistaken, and you hear the same complaints all the time. So basically, the lawyer, who is reportedly an expert, can re-review it, submit your questions, and rule it. She may charge us again, but should be very familiar with the contract.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If we're not happy with Breeze Line, have we considered what our other options are?
Yes.
Before, what are our other options?
Well,
Do we have other companies?
I have an option that it doesn't cost you anything.
Really?
Yes.
I like that.
I don't know if you were here at the time, but basically,
Yeah,
and it was here in the village previously,
yeah.
Telephone.
there was an antenna.
Ed, shut your phone off.
You hear it? It's only in my
I hear your
ear.
phone.
It
Okay,
stopped.
okay.
The other options,
Well,
free, you said.
This is gonna come up in the broadband, this is gonna come up in the broadband committee meeting.
yeah,
If Leo or the broadband committee can talk them into not raising that fee, then it'll be a different issue that we address. But there's no sense in talking about it now until the broadband committee meets with Melissa, Levy,
Leo
Nicole
Giordano.
Noel. Okay, until we meet with them. The whole situation could change in 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks and 4 hours from now. It could all change.
I'm curious about free options.
Yeah.
He was about to say
I
something.
did cover that. And yes, the change would go to the broadband committee, but I think it's a fair question because it involves $3.5 million. I don't think you were at the meeting when it was covered. And the other thing, just to start an easy point, the only obligation of Viewco is to provide television. Don't have to provide 309 channels, just TV. And I brought to fore that a gentleman who we may know, I know, lives in a very expensive condominium, and all they get is the basic TV. That's all we're required to do.
Well, I think these people want more than that.
Well,
I mean, really.
I don't want to get into that.
Okay, you answered the question though.
I
Okay.
answered the
Yeah, that's it.
question. I'll just say you can't just brush everything. There's a lot of people here who use their iPhone, who use their computer, and they don't need it. You just don't need it once you get Wi-Fi. Mr. Americo.
Ed, when UCO initially signed the contract with Atlantic Broadband, they had a consultant. Now that consultant was paid up front.
Leo,
You had two people, if I'm not mistaken. You had Converged Services Incorporated, which is Leo Delgado, and he got paid handsomely, several $100,000.
Correct. We spent,
Excuse me. And then after that, it went to Shell Connick, who is an attorney who specializes in this. And what you're getting in by email is what she read and said it's okay to sign. So I agree, certain things the committee has to do, but when it comes to money, the finance committee is not only charged with checking what you currently pay, but if you read the obligation of the treasurer is supposed to approve every expense to get put in the books. Almost impossible. I'd like to move on. You will get it.
just, Amerigo, can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
2 weeks from today, Wednesday the 14th at 1 o'clock, there will be a broadband meeting here. See if you can make a connection.
2 weeks after, okay, that's
The 14th,
September the 14th, okay. What time?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
I'll make sure that the chairman approves of a public Zoom meeting, which is what this is.
Mhm.
Or if not, if there's a private Zoom meeting, that you get the credentials as long as the chair approves.
Okay,
I mean, I'm trying to be as careful as I can with making sure, you know, people are not, we want to be careful with Zoom meetings because they're recorded. And we don't know whether the chair wants them or not, and I don't like to record unless it's approved. Barbara?
My question is, I understand what you're saying 100%, Joanne, but I heard that there's a limit, which I've already been involved with, where we couldn't stay in that room you're in.
Oh, no.
The CAM says only 12 people. Well, you have 8 officers, that only leaves room for 4
Oh.
more. You have guests.
Oh, got it, yeah. No, well, that's the whole thing. We're making the Zoom available because of that, so we can accommodate more people. I just wanna, some meetings are more public than others,
Okay.
and some meetings are a little more restricted. And I go according to whatever the chairperson tells me they want. So if the chairperson of the broadband committee approves it, we'll go ahead and make it a public meeting. And this same credential that you used today and this week will work. You know, we'll open it up. So
Okay,
I just want to make sure that you understand that we'll
I
do
do.
everything, you know, we'll do everything we can to make it as public as possible.
It's
I
a
do.
good-
but
I-
there's all meetings are supposed to be open, am I correct?
Yes,
Except FOIA or finances as far as salaries.
Well, that's it, when there's certain things discussed, and I don't know what an agenda, you know, I'm not part of the broadband committee, so, and I don't participate, so,
Thank you, Joanne.
no problem.
I would like to add that I concur that there are only certain committees that really could have closed meetings, because I went through that before. 2 are interviewing a potential employee, and the other is meetings with an attorney. Okay? It is, as a unit owner who has fought for this all the time, why would that be a closed meeting if there weren't bidding against another carrier?
Well, see, that's my point, is when you've got a vendor in the room, you want to be careful about
right,
releasing the vendor's information
right.
if they're giving you a bid or a proposal, because these are public. Any competitor of theirs could jump on and look.
I
It's
agree.
not fair to the vendor.
Right,
Excuse me, you're absolutely right. They should submit their agenda to us, and if they're not gonna give us confidential numbers, there really is no reason to have it as a closed meeting.
Right, and that's the only reason that I'm qualifying my offer, is that there are some times that I simply can't do it. And it's not up to me. I'm more than happy to do exactly what we're doing right now, anytime. But there are certain circumstances where I will not be able to do that. Just, I want to be sure going forward.
right.
This is Steve. Let me just let Steve in for a minute. I apologize.
Let's move on to the
Okay.
bus. Is it the bus that you wanted?
One second.
Hi, Steve.
Oh, now we will all complain about the IT guy.
Oh,
Hi,
there's-
Steve.
Hi, Steve. I'm glad you were
Hello.
able to join us. And I informed you that your estimate for the replacement of equipment was cut in half. And the suggestion to upgrade the database was totally voted down. And when I informed you of that, I said, if that's what you really think we're gonna spend, cutting it doesn't make any sense. And you've been here, I think, what, 3 years, everything?
More than that.
Me, I've been here since probably about 15 years now.
Well, you look much younger than, you know that.
Appreciate it. I started back in 2007, I think, with UCO. Yeah, so I think it's about
15 years.
Yeah.
I mean, if I remember correctly, I could be off, but it's been a while. But I mean, essentially, to touch on the topic, I mean, we have probably 40 battery backups in the place that need to be replaced once every 2 years. So that's, you know, approximately one a month, or sorry, 2 a month. So that's about, you know, $80 right there a month. You know, there's 26 computers in there. If they're replaced every 5 years, you know, that's 5 computers a year at, you know, $500 to $600 each. And then there's always the additionally in the budget, which may not have been clearly outlined, I consider a lot of the gatehouse equipment. The cameras break and the DVRs break on a somewhat regular basis that's unpredictable. But, you know, I'm not talking about adding new equipment. It's really just a budget for replacing things that break or become outdated over time in the budget.
So what are you saying to us? You think the cut was not correct?
Yeah, I mean, if you can look at the years past for invoices, and it's almost always higher than $5,000 a year. I think it's pretty much averaged that. You know, some years it's higher, but some years it might be a little bit lower, but that's typically what it's come out to be approximately. I do think that there's been a good deal of stability as far as the equipment goes lately. We haven't done many computer upgrades this year. I think we've done 3 computer upgrades, but like this year, I know there was a lightning strike and we had to replace a couple of network switches and servers. So it's just unpredictable when things will break. But I think, you know, 5,000 is an appropriate number for annual replacement and hardware upgrades in the community. I mean, it's a lot of infrastructure that we have there, and I think it's relatively low cost based on the amount of infrastructure there is.
Are there any comments here?
No, I move that we
Yeah.
give him $5,000.
So we're gonna
He's defended it well. I move we give him the $5,000. Is there a second?
Second.
You can, that's
All
fine.
right, now discussion. Sorry to keep on pushing.
No, that's a good motion. I think, again, and in that instance that we don't, if we have a professional who's giving us his opinion, and he's been here long enough almost to get a gold medal, I think it would be absurd not to take his advice, and that's why I wanted this kind of meeting over. So you have input rather than just for people on the committee. So is it, the motion has been seconded?
Who
Did you
seconded?
guys hear them? Okay.
I moved them, it's been moved and it's been seconded. Mr. Chairman, put the motion on the table. Let's go.
Thank you.
I appreciate you hearing my side of it there.
Call the question.
Is there any other discussion? It's been seconded.
Let's vote now.
Let's have a vote.
Okay, Richard Handelsman brought a motion, was Richard, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
To, who seconded?
I did.
Ruth seconded.
Can you guys hear?
To allocate, Steve, did you say 5,000?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Barbara?
Ruth, are you on the committee?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Oh, Barbara, I'm
Oh,
glad you brought it out.
know
I'm not a
something, you're
member
not.
of this. I thought
Yeah,
I
you're
was on
not.
another.
Therefore,
I
you
take
can't
back,
second
I
it.
take back
Barbara.
my second. Somebody
I'll
else
second
second.
it.
Okay, you got Olga.
Okay,
Sorry,
Olga.
I
Okay.
won't
If you
vote
do that
either.
again, you're gonna be
If I
banned
could
for the.
vote, I would
I
vote
know.
yes.
Okay. If you
Okay,
do that one more
so
time, we'll have
I'm
to
off.
ban you from.
I'm
the
off.
meeting.
so we've got, Richard brought a motion to allocate $5,000, Steve?
Yes.
For computer hardware replacement costs for 2003.
2023.
2023.
We're all much younger
I
if
know.
we use your number.
Barbara?
Yes,
Uh, Richard?
Yes.
Americo?
Yes.
Olga?
Yes,
John?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, and it carried unanimously. So motion is passed.
We're not paying you for this time, you know, this is gratis.
Okay.
But let's move ahead. What I did, just to reiterate, because it was brought up, an email is going to Shelconic with 2 questions. If anybody has any other questions, I'd like to incorporate it into one email so that we don't have to besiege her.
Before we go too much further, can I just ask if we have much more for Steve? Because
Yeah.
I can't imagine that Steve wants to listen to all of our other.
Well, maybe
little
you'll have
bric-a-brac.
mercy.
I was-
on us.
I was looking for the right moment to interject. I'm gonna step away now. Thank you for
don't
hearing me.
practice your keyboard, Steve.
Yeah, that's just there for show. I haven't touched it in months. but
Bye,
thank you.
Steve.
If you play, you could give us a couple of notes and we'll know that it's not just there for
Right.
nothing.
All right, well, have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I think that was well taken.
I have many questions about Breeze Line, but I will save them for 2 weeks from today.
It's your prerogative. I think
Sure
it's
will.
up to you if you just don't want to expound here. Well, I think that why would it be to our disadvantage to hear you? That's why you're here on the committee.
I can wait.
Well, I have some comments since you're gonna be at the meeting. I have a lot of times with the texts, you know, we can't get modems here. You have to go down to
This-
military to get a modem. They don't keep any here on the premises. So the tech,
Not according to what they said.
no, I noticed for a fact, because I just was on one of them runs,
Yeah, it's not the first time I've heard that. I
Yeah.
think
Right.
Steve said that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
And in fact, the person I went with, one of the residences owns his own electrical company, so he was able to do it himself. But we had to go down off-site, down the military, and get the modem, bring it back here, and then he installed it. There was no tech. They said, it did go from 1 week to 10 days. Now we're down to 2 days, we get the service, which is much better than we used to be, and used to be left on hold. We're just starting to get a little bit of now again. It got much better, but there's a lot of service they can't do on site here. So you could bring that kind of stuff up and,
Could you expound? Are you only involved with one association?
no, well, in Stratford, but it's Stratford A, B, C, D, and E. So it's quite a bit. So I make sure that they let me know if there's problems. And with the Breeze Line, I knew about the channels, the Newsmax that we lost. And there was one other cable channel, I can't remember, that they lost, that I could go back and find out. They take them away because they say it's getting too expensive.
yeah.
So
Take it away from us.
could you just expound?
Yeah.
You have to go to military?
Yes, on military, they have an office on military, down in
Yeah,
military,
next door.
Yeah.
a store.
Yeah.
And to get a modem, they don't keep the modems on site here in Century Village.
it's not what they said.
Well, it's what they say and what I see. Because we actually had to go down to military and get a modem and bring it back to install it.
Will you be able to come in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Good.
and
That's news. I thought that building was there to keep an inventory.
That's what they said.
Heard it from others, that's all I can say.
Right.
Right.
Well, it's noted, and we should all participate in that meeting, okay? And I'm inviting anybody else, if they have any questions, I will include it to what I sent to Shel Connick. Okay? If you look at this contract, I believe we started at $29 according to the contract.
29.99, as I recall.
No, I think it's 20.
Well, I could be wrong, I thought
I
it
know.
was
Well, if it's in
Yeah,
here, I
I thought it was
stand
29,
corrected, but I
and it
thought it-
increases $1.25 a year.
Yeah, so that, yeah.
It doesn't, if I'm not mistaken, an increase is 3%.
No.
$1.25 a year? Let's take a look at the videotape.
It's on the bottom of, well, look, bottom of page 1, top of page 2, the bulk rate addendum, the installation. The bottom of page 1, bulk rate price, number 2, you see that? 10 years, $29. You go over to the
I don't know
top.
what you're reading from, but it's not what we've got here. Oh, then.
That's the bus.
Gets the bus.
Take the bus,
It's a
the
big,
green
Yeah,
list.
I got it, I got it.
okay,
Bottom of 1 up to, yeah.
yeah, well, it's gotta say bulk rate addendum. So $29, and you go over to the top of page 2 about the, except for companies' increases, it's about a couple inches down underneath equipment charge. The bulk rate price is guaranteed for 1 year, and then it'll be increased by $1.25. See, you got,
The addendum.
yeah, here, yeah, you gotta go in past the,
All right, my page 2 that he just printed out is different. It is not bulk rate, it's installation and distribution. This is entirely different from what you got, and I think yours is correct. This is,
Yeah.
That was copied
yeah, well,
right off
you
this contract.
don't make more copies of that, because this appears to be the correct one.
you
Well,
got installation, yeah.
Yeah,
There's 2 parts to this contract. The installation and distribution is pretty much boilerplate for every customer. And that's, I don't know, 10 or 11 pages. Then you go to the second part, also initialed on every page, is the installation and distribution. That's what I'm
I think the
referring,
front
that's
of
for
this,
us
I think the front of this
specifically.
is missing from that contract. It doesn't start
Okay.
out the way it should.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
a letter says you will find 2 original copies of the 3 agreements that have been presented by the Atlantic Broadband.
This whole.
Yeah, but it's not the executed copy.
No. The whole front of it.
He
is-
has the executed copy.
Why isn't this?
but I brought it.
Yeah.
Oh, it was her work product.
Yeah, it's 2 parts,
Yeah,
and you don't have the second part of it.
right.
You don't have the first part. of it,
As I
right?
said, the second part is specific,
Yes, that's what he's
specific to
got.
us. Here's another copy if you want. I mean, I've got, it's all notated all over the place, but I've got 2 copies.
Well, I guess, what are we looking at? I mean, this is a budget meeting, so what?
Yeah, I
what impact
know.
on the budget is this review gonna have?
Well,
Let's move on to bus.
I'm sorry to get blunt, but, this is our 3rd meeting.
it's gonna be a lot more.
And I just don't understand where we're going.
We were going to know what we were talking about, not just looking at a boilerplate and saying, okay, you have a complete contract?
Yeah, but this is all for the committee, the broadband committee.
Yeah, this is not for here.
It's not
Well,
for here.
that's your opinion.
It's not,
That's your opinion. It involves money, and if we're not getting what we pay for, or if we're overcharged, that's money. The broadband committee meets all the time. I haven't heard anything that was published talking about what you brought up. And I don't hear anybody talking about what they haven't performed. I haven't heard anybody talk about the use that we broke our neck for to give them a space is not being done. I'm sorry, if you think it's good just to put some numbers down, I disagree with you. It's up to you. Okay? Who knows that before John said that he has to go outside the village to pick up equipment?
I'm not even on the committee. I know that was brought up.
That was brought up.
It was brought up and it was a supply chain issue, if I'm not mistaken, that was
Well, what was
noted.
done about
Barbara
it?
is asking.
What was done about
What
it?
can be done about all the supply chain issues this country is experiencing right now? That was the answer to the question, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it's unacceptable if they have it down the
What-
block and another
They
store.
have many customers in this area. They have to have a centralized location for not just us, because they have a limited
Why sign
supply.
a contract? This is ridiculous.
Okay, so is that a material issue that's going to affect us financially?
Yes, it
The
already
fact that
did.
a few people have to go down to military to
No.
get a modem.
We broke our back and gave them a break on a good piece of real estate. Basis what they said.
Now, that's a separate agreement altogether, and it doesn't affect that $3
I
million
have to beg to
contract.
differ with you. If you read the lease, it's tied
It's a
into.
separate lease. It's not this contract. It's not.
Well,
I was here when that contract was signed. This one I wasn't here for.
Well, all I could tell you is that's
Yes.
a joint view.
But it's a separate line
No,
item.
it's
It's a
not.
separate.
Barbara had a
Yeah.
question.
Listen,
Barbara has a question.
Barbara's looking. to
Okay,
speak.
Barbara. I'm sorry, I'll shut up.
I just want to say something. Number one, UCO only handles TV services, so let's stick with TV services. John, as far as what you said, most of the people in my building who cannot get out, they call and they make an appointment, they come with the modem right to the house, because my people don't drive.
Right.
So, and I have had no problem. I'm only talking about my building now, okay? And I agree with Joanne, Ed. The real estate deal is separate. That's another issue. That has nothing to do with the broadband
Did
contract.
you read the real estate agreement before you make that remark?
I did.
Read the agreement.
Which
Read the
agreement?
agree- Don't just talk off the top of your head.
Which agreement, Ed?
Read the lease agreement.
$1 a foot for 1,200 feet. That's
Right.
the lease.
Right.
So what about it?
You know,
All right,
this
let's move on.
mentality prevails throughout this village. And it is debilitating and is killing what was a good village. Because all I hear is, let them do this, let them do that. You're paying for it, you may not mind. I believe if you have a contract, they have to perform. If they said they can't do it because of the virus, how come they could do it across the street on Military? It was part of our deal.
I can have a comment on this, because I see what's going on, Bob, with you. When your residents call out and they get the modem delivered, the person I was dealing with has his own company, electrical company. He needed that with that same day or the next day to replace the modem. And that's why they couldn't do it, because there was no modem on site in Century Village, and we had to go down there. They don't keep them on site here. We actually had to go down and get it. A technician will deliver you your modem, but it can
And-
take
and
a lot
attach-
longer, days.
They'll attach it to you. They'll replace it.
Yes, but it'll take days to do it.
Yes, you're right. Takes a couple of days.
Right. If somebody has a business they can't afford in here to
All
wait
right,
a few
let's,
days.
what's
And the
next?
reason we gave them the space was to accommodate the villages.
Right.
If not, take back the space and I guarantee you will get more rent from another vendor. And it doesn't have to be a cable company. You know, there is a mentality here that you feel one way, I feel another. I've been here only 14 or 15 years. And the only one I think that I could remember in the treasury slot was Howard O'Brien, who said, why are we doing it December 1st when we don't get the numbers? We should have the budget March. And that was a very good suggestion. You're guessing on big numbers. So you may be satisfied with it. I'm not. And that doesn't mean you're wrong, but it's my job to do what I think is right. And you haven't had a professional here for 8 years. You had Ed Black, who commanded the buses, and that's it. And Ed Black would not take this kind of nonsense when he was in charge as the treasurer, I guarantee you. So I consider it nonsense. You don't think so? We'll get answers. And the answer is, it's easy enough to plug numbers in. We're in a difficult time. We're talking something should increase, something shouldn't increase. And we really will go through the expenses quickly. But what's going to take longer is the amount that goes into the reserve accounts. Okay, we were asked to not put anything in the reserve account for 3 to 5 years. If you don't have to agree, we don't have to get that in the budget, but I'd like everybody to understand that you have to bring this to a delegate assembly for approval. I forgot. Well, the whole budget has to be brought to the delegate assembly. And if it gets voted down, it gets out. And if it's voted in, it gets in. There was a big movement here to have one vote per unit. It was bandied around for years and nothing took place. The other thing now, which I haven't confirmed yet, although Mr. Israel confirmed it, is taking treasury notes out of the bylaws. And I said, where was it voted on? And at the last time I brought it up, he said it probably wasn't. So for one word, which Richard said, or I feel we're being deprived of well over, it was 4.75, I think, yesterday, or 4.125. And to sit on this is silly. And not to use it is silly. And that's why I'm getting a hold of Simmons and White to get a new appraisal as to what really the conditions of the vote is. Is Donald's patching the right way to go? I don't know. I want a professional who we pay thousands and thousands of dollars to write a report that we follow doing the repaving. And I could say unequivocally, the roadway in front of Wellington was 5 times better before it was done than after it was done. So having said all that, and I am going to call the meeting and wait a little bit because I have certain requests to different vendors that have not yet responded. And then we will move on to the general expenses.
Is there a reason you gave us the bus contract?
Yes, that's the next thing, but I think we just chewed up the time. There is a major reason, I keep saying it. Let me say it for the 40th time. I reached out, I have emails with Omar, who was supposed to be in charge. He was sharing information. I sent him an email. He never responded. I sent him another email. He never responded. I called not too long before the last delegate assembly, and I asked for him, and he got on the phone. And he said, I can't give it to you. I said, why? I've been told not to give it to you. Who told you? Well, I can't tell you. Well, I'm telling you to give it to me. I'm the treasurer. No, I gotta talk to the other people. Who's the other people? Finally, he said, Donald Foster.
And
I wrote an email to
we've
Don-
heard
no,
this. We've heard
You're
this,
out of
that
turn.
they said that you should not receive the information.
Yes,
What I want to know is to what part of this contract do you object?
well, it's very simple.
Which
There
part?
is a dispute resolution written right in the contract.
What page?
Uh,
Hate to interrupt, but I know
There is
they cut you out of the loop. What page?
There is, stands for employee. Academy and then the fourth. Okay, superintendents. Governing law, assignment, affirmative, notification. Entire agreement, conflict with the force
Looks
majeure.
like the second part of 16 on page 6. Each party shall submit itself in jurisdiction of a Palm Beach County court. I think that's what you're. Unless you're
The
objecting.
bottom line is, we could look at it, I read it, you seem to know it, and it says, in essence, if we have a problem, we sit down and talk about it, and if they have a problem, they sit down and talk about it, and I have a problem.
What page is the problem on?
The problem is in the contract which says they will provide newer buses.
What page is that on?
It's in the
What
contract,
number?
What number?
it's in the contract.
Okay, fine.
So
Where, I'm looking. Where?
well, that's why I provided it.
I know, there's 12 pages here, which I'm gonna do it as fast as I can. But I'm not an jurisdiction.
Excuse me, Ed.
And Barbara,
Ed,
Yes,
I hate to say this, and I think it's important what you're looking for, but I think we should take it home and maybe come back with it at the next meeting instead of wasting time looking through it now.
I think that's a good idea. I know it's in here. I brought it up before. And even if there isn't a dispute resolution, it's a contract between two parties. And if anybody knows that they delivered new buses from January 1st to August, they haven't. If anybody checked the availability of the bus they specify, which is Infinity, you'll see they're basically not in supply. Infinity is a manufacturer in Canada, and I have it on good word that it took them 1 year to supply new buses to Boca Raton. And I'm saying if they don't give you what you pay for, you should get a rebate. So I agree. I bring in my emails,
I see. Yeah,
I think
page
these are
10,
good challenges.
page,
page 10,
okay,
second paragraph,
Academy will provide.
the third.
What page is it?
Joanne said the third,
Page 10.
page 10. Academy will provide the third sentence, late model transit type buses. Now, if we can find the word newer, I don't know, but that's all I found.
No, it's not newer.
Is the
All
term
right.
late model defined in the definitions portion? I don't think it is.
That's,
And I think
What-
industry
what-
standard is 5 years.
okay, that's.
Well,
As with the Breathe Line contract, you got the word applicable. As with the long-term lease, you got the word capital improvement.
You're right.
Undefined terms.
You don't define the
That's
term.
where we
Then
go.
I'll stand on it.
Okay, so
You
we've
have to go
got
with
late
the
model
standard.
transit type buses.
I don't see it undefined when it says newer.
It doesn't say newer, it says late
That's what
model.
I'm trying to find.
It
You-
doesn't say new.
Does it say it's gonna replace what they gave us?
What? It says
Says late model transit type buses.
Okay.
That's all
presented
it
in clean and
says.
serviceable condition. Has any bus broken down and
Yes.
not been replaced
No.
by
Has
these
nothing to
spare
do with
buses?
it.
Yeah, it's got everything.
I'll
to
ask
do
you
with
the
it.
same question I asked Fausto. You go across the street, you lease the most expensive Lexus you can get. You pay for the lease, but they say, we don't have it. So we give you a 1960 Yugo, and you're willing to just keep paying the same lease. The other explanation I got was, you're not paying for the buses, you're only paying for service.
All it says is late model. Joanne said that's 5 years. Is there any bus
Well,
older
I'd
than
like to
5
see
years?
that, because every bus that I look at, the bills, is over 700,000 miles.
How
If
many,
you look at the average miles of buses that age, you will, more, with our newer buses, it's not 700,000 miles. Now,
what is it?
it's, I can't give you the industry standard, I don't have it in writing, but I'll reach out to Infinity. They're very hard to come to and get, first of all, I'll get what their delivery option is. And second of all, I invite anybody to go on Google and look for a used Infinity, and they tell you what model. Okay, so
You have to define late model. That's
Yeah.
what you need. That's what you need to do.
I
Late
don't have
model
to
could
do it.
mean, late model could mean 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, has nothing to do with the mileage.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't,
Right.
because I could have a new car with a tremendous amount of mileage
Right.
on it. I could have a brand new car with very little mileage on it. So
Yeah.
late model has to be defined.
Yes.
Secondly, this is an issue for the Transportation Committee.
The Transportation Committee has had 3 different chairs. And David Bowers was the head of the Transportation Committee. I brought it up to him, and he didn't do nothing.
All right.
Let me just finish and you're next. The next thing was Dominic. That lasted a week and a half. And the next thing was Ms. Caputo.
Okay.
Now, she's totally new to it and admits it. I don't know if she even read the contract. And on top of that, it's the first time I saw the Transportation Committee article written by the editor, and that the chair of the Transportation Committee has an article that has nothing to do with transportation.
Well, you're an officer, you're an ex officio member of Transportation Committee, bring it up to them. How can we here, the Financial Committee, what is our prerogative or power to do anything about this contract?
Okay, you're very good. Look at the bylaws.
I did.
And the bylaws says the treasurer has to approve the bills. And I don't think it's right to approve a bill we're being overcharged. Now, if we're not being overcharged, we should have them put the metal to and see, oh, you're not being overcharged. I've been in business a long time. You sign a contract that has force majeure, okay? I would like you to go on to the internet and see how many Infinity buses of that model, which you have in their brochure, is available for sale. And you'll find some. One is in Poland, the other is in Austria, the other is in another part of the world. They signed this contract and made the commitment knowing that they couldn't fulfill the contract. And that's a no-no. Yes, ma'am.
Thankfully. Okay, I would like to explain the transportation column and why it's written by me.
Okay.
Let's back it up to the time when Joy Vestal, may she rest in peace, was editor. She felt that a contract of millions of dollars should have a column. Lori Torres was chair of transportation.
Right.
She could not write. She
Right.
could not put 5 words together. She asked me to do it for her. I did.
Did it say by you?
It says by me.
Okay.
It says, well, you just told me. That's how you know it's written by me.
No, this one. I have,
Well, you, let me finish and then say what you will.
I will.
Then David Boaz came. He wasn't about to write a column. I continued. Now we have Patricia Caputo. She writes a column as a vice president, as did David Boaz. I'm still writing the column. If anyone in the organization objects to it, I will stop. I do it as an accommodation. You don't want it, you don't insult me.
I'm only one person. Did you reach out?
Well, okay, but you
What?
say, why
Did-
should the editor write it? I'm telling you why
Don't
the
we have
editor
a
is.
transportation committee? Can you
Yes,
tell
we
her?
do. I just told you, Patricia as chair
But
is
then-
writing another column.
Okay, so why isn't anybody else on the transportation?
Because they don't want to do anything. The column is just one of them.
All right, let's, I,
What can I tell you?
the bylaws say that the treasurer shall sit in on any bill. This is a contract and it's stated right below on page 10, the rates. The treasurer can't cancel a contract. A court can, or maybe the appropriate committee, not even an appropriate committee. If you
It's
look at the
illegal.
earlier pages, it's got to go to court to cancel.
Well,
The
it
treasurer
doesn't have
has
to
no,
cancel. Does it say I have to approve the bills?
no, wait, you approve bills, but
Right. And
not
if the bill's
contracts.
wrong, what should I do? Sit on my tuchus?
Not contracts. The contract has already been approved and signed and is a legal document, and
Yes.
that's it. You don't, the treasurer doesn't,
Well, the
Can't-
treasurer questions anything that's not being paid the proper amount. Okay? That's what it means.
But if
I could put in a bill for $10 million and I approve it. You know, I'm not a lawyer, you're not a lawyer. I think those questions should be brought to a lawyer, and I think it should be other than Rod Tennyson, who writes what he
Yeah,
wants.
Barbara.
right,
Barbara,
go, Barb.
Listen, I agree with Richard, when a contract, regardless what you think, and I understand your point, Ed, is approved by the delegates
Mhm.
or by the officers or by the executive board. That is the contract. Whether you like it or not, you can question it at their meeting, say, we should review this. But if that's what they agreed to pay X amount of money, like Richard said, that's what you have to pay.
Yeah.
Oh, Barbara, I'm sure you do the same thing on your own personal finances. When you think you're not getting what you're paying for, you pay the bill anyway, and you don't protest it.
But I don't have anybody else that can tell me what to do. And
Well,
you
what's
have
that?
other offices, you
Right.
also have delegate assembly, executive board. I agree with you. I might not agree with them either, but they're the ones who make the contract. And
I'm
if the
not saying,
so
you're,
much,
you're
that's what
taking
you
me
say.
to the next step. I'm not saying make it. I'm challenging whether it's the right amount.
Fine, then you have to bring it to the people who approved the contract and start with the committee.
I'm just laughing to myself. I could see that happen at a corporation when a guy is or girl is the purchasing agent, and she keeps purchasing stuff that's way out of line. They'll just keep her, right? Or him.
But one
Yeah.
person doesn't make that decision, Ed. It takes
But
more
it's
than
a-
one.
listen, they have had this for over a year. And if it's wrong, it has to be changed. And I gotta tell you, I'm going back to where it says approve the bill. And if they made a mistake, then it's a mistake. I'm not changing the contract. I'm challenging the bill if the bill is correct.
What bill?
Well,
What bill? are
what
you
bill?
talking about?
What is the challenge?
What's
The
wrong?
challenge on here, I said it 10 times, we haven't got newer buses. You're telling me what's a newer bus?
It
I'm
doesn't-
telling
There's
you.
nothing in the contract that says
doesn't
newer,
Say newer.
Late model.
late model.
Model.
Okay, what does that mean?
It
Does
means, I
does
just checked
say?
it. I just checked the accepted term according to about 4 different references that I looked at. Was late model means it would not be deemed classic.
Okay,
Oh,
I agree with that. So why does it say
It would
will
not
replace?
They're still running.
recent design not to be thought of as classic.
Listen,
Wow.
why does it say in here, we will replace?
They will replace with late model vehicles.
No, so have
Any
they?
yes, I've seen them replace stuff. Those ones with the blue stripes have come in, they're newer.
They're
You
newer.
think-
Yes, I've seen newer buses
Right,
come.
and the last big white one
you
is
see the-
newer.
Do you know the mileage?
Why would I?
Because I know the mileage.
Why does
because-
it matter?
Because it matters. You-
It's got
I
nothing to
would-
do with that contract. There's nothing in there about mileage, nothing.
It says what it says, and it says we will replace. And
And they have.
no, they haven't.
How do you
Show-
know they haven't?
Because I see the mileage. And
The mileage has nothing to do with this contract, Ed.
I gotta tell you something.
It doesn't.
I know that you're gonna buy a brand new Rolls Royce and it has 300,000 miles on it.
I
Is that-
almost did one
Oh,
time.
Come on, this is a
I-
nonsense.
It,
It is a total nonsense.
sure is.
You wanna pay for what you don't wanna get, that's your business. I feel when it says we're supposed to have a site manager. You don't have a site.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Explained that at the last meeting.
Yeah, I have a source that tells me every day whether there's.
I don't know who your source is,
My
but,
source is very
but-
reliable.
but Mario said he's here, what, Monday, Wednesday, and after his run, he's there 3 days. That was the last meeting.
Yes. I have someone who's there 5 days a week and tells me if there is a project manager there or not. And the next thing is he qualified, not just another driver? So, and we're just so liberal with other people's money.
It's our money. It's not
It's
other
my money
people's.
too.
I know, but it's our
So-
money.
It's,
It's not other people's, and we sign the contract.
well, it is other
Barbara has her
people's
hand
money.
up.
That's why you're here.
I know.
Barbara has her.
Yes, Miss Barbara.
Okay, I was the chair of transportation. I was also the vice president over transportation. I rode the buses every route. I could tell you where they went. I knew the schedule. If you have a problem, Ed, I think you should bring it to the chair and say, what if, like Ruth just said, she said there's somebody there. You said there's nobody there. Somebody should be checking all this stuff. You should be up there, somebody in transportation, and say, yes, there is a guy here. Those are things that we should be following up on. But you can't just say things. There's someone in charge, bring the complaint to them. If I have a complaint, I'm gonna go to Patricia and say, listen, the air conditioning doesn't run on bus 3. Why not?
Yeah, we have a whole system.
Yeah,
for that.
Patricia's very
We have a
aggressive.
whole
She'll
system
do it.
for addressing
Ladies and
problems.
gentlemen, that's a wonderful idea. Why wasn't it done?
It is being done.
No, you're saying it is, and I'm saying it isn't.
Let's ask at
Okay,
the
we
next
can do that.
transportation committee
Thank
meeting.
thank you.
Wow.
Bring your
Trouble.
man of 5
This-
days a week to the next transportation meeting and let him or her bring it to the representative and let him challenge him.
Yeah,
Talking about it here isn't solving
Right,
anything.
right.
I personally think it does.
The only
when-
thing that
When
we-
they don't want to release financial information on the statement that it was presented by someone at Yugo. And I think that's crossing the line. I could tell you for many, many years as a, not only an accountant, as a treasurer and everything else. When you can't get information, it's a red flag. It's a red flag. That information should be available. And it shouldn't have a purportedly a member of Yugo saying not to give it out. Okay? You don't believe it? We're gonna find out in a legal way. This is a piece of cake.
I would think that the only time this bus schedule should be discussed here is if, for example, you get an invoice that is in excess of any of these numbers.
66.50 a
Other
month.
than that, it's contractual.
Right.
That's it.
No, it's not, because
It is.
it was brought up at a transportation meeting
Yeah.
that the route should be revised and brought up to date.
Right.
They said, no problem. Well, it must be a problem. We didn't get it. I then said, how can you do it when you don't have a record of how many people are on a bus or on a route?
Right.
Okay, you can't. And what was brought up by our chairman was in the past, there were scanners on the bus, and those scanners you'd have to get on the bus, run your pass through it, and it kept the record. Now, no one wants to read it, but there's a terrific article from Pembroke Pines written by a resident of the person in charge of the buses at the terminal. And what they can produce, we can't. They know exactly how many people ride the bus. They know how many people are on that bus. They know when the bus breaks down. It was brought up at the transportation meeting
Yeah.
that we currently don't have them. It's 92 degrees outside. And poor Olga's waiting for a bus 30 minutes. The bus isn't gonna come because it's not working, and we don't have a system to let the people know. Now, in the past, there was a site manager. If that happened, he got in his car and he drove to that route and told the people they're waiting for nothing. There was another suggestion. The complaint form, which is really a bitch session for the transportation. Why do you have to get off a bus and walk to have a right to complain?
What does this have to do with the finance committee?
This
the
has,
budget.
well, I'll tell you what it does. It has an inefficient operation, I brought this up at the transportation meeting, not here. And what was done? Zilch.
That's the transportation.
You know, you wanna argue, I'm ready anytime.
I'm not
This is a-
arguing, I'm
you
just
know,
saying that this is
have-
a function of the.
I don't doubt your ability to read, but if you, at any point in your career where you had a profit-making organization that didn't care what it cost,
That's a transportation committee. How
No, wait a
you have to
second.
work in
That's
the
the-
schedule?
you know, Phyllis, who he keeps trying and doesn't listen to, I forgot her last name, worked for a bus company for 15 to 20 years. So I don't think she's blowing smoke when she says there should be a way of signaling to stop the bus, that there should be a way of counting, that there should be a way of
Fine,
communicating.
bring it up to transportation.
I did, and you know what happened? Nothing.
That's
It's like the government.
That's not our
Nothing.
problem.
How's that gonna affect the budget here?
Listen. You can't get volunteers here because they're frustrated, they're not happy. And why? Because everything is, we used to do it this way, we used to do it then. Things change.
Is this meeting over?
Are we
Getting ready.
calling,
Yeah,
are we adjourning?
I move we adjourn,
I thought we adjourned 20 minutes ago.
I'll second the one.
second, third, fourth. Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
Arrivederci, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you next week.
You want